Good evening, everyone. My name is Gbubemi Atimomo. Thanks, Traction Ventures, for having me today. I'm the founder of Side Hustle NG. Side Hustle NG is still my side hustle. I work as an HR consultant. I have an HR consulting business, and I started Side Hustle NG out of passion when I realized that there were so many fora and opportunities and communities for full-time entrepreneurs. The same for those in careers, but side hustlers are in between career people and full-time entrepreneurs, and there didn't seem to be anyone addressing that gap. So I thought, okay, why not start this community? That was it.
Great, and I think that Tosin, there is another reason that I thought it was also super important, besides the fact that, and I would like you over the course of today's session to speak to that, was that besides obviously the content of Money Africa is really around, however, wherever you find yourself, how are you building that personal finance, right? And, I imagine that over the course of today's session, we can speak to a little bit of those principles that you've seen even from investing. You don't have to be a full-time investor, but how do you save? How, those principles, I believe that it can be applied even regardless of into other side hustles, for example. But I think we should just start from a discovery point of view. Let's start with Tosin. How did you come about? I wanted to even talk about Money Africa a little bit, but how did you start that process of formalizing, testing out Money Africa and bringing it and eventually fully launching it into what it is today?
Great. All right. Thanks a lot for that question, Olapo. It was in 2018. All my friends know that I really love money conversations, and also my background has always been things like finance and all of that. So I'd always just speak about it. You do like Facebook posts about GDP and about all those different things. I'm going to be very honest. At no point did I think that it could formalize and it could be done, put in structure and all of that. It was really just something I was very passionate about. So then Instagram was like it was a friend of mine was doing a course talking about how to be an influencer, something along those lines. And I was actually really working it. Like I was like, all those people with all their funny Zoom classes and all of that. You know how it is in my 9 to 5, and you always sort of look down on all this other things. Like, anyhow, I've got some free time, why not? And they started talking about how 1 minute videos, what Reel is doing now, 1 minute videos then was the hot thing that you can actually just choose any topic and just do 1 minute videos. I love videos, I love to talk, and I love money. So why not? So I just started doing 1 minute videos talking about money, wear my red lipstick and just talk about treasury bills, mutual funds and all of that. I was having fun. At no point did I think, we're going to be here. I was just really happy. And then we saw the numbers.
When you mind you.
So we went from 1,000 to 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000, and then knowing that we're not an entertainment page, this was a bell. So I was like, okay, wait, this means something. They wanted to. So what do we need to do? Shortly after that, I think about 5 months into us, me just playing around and having fun, an insurance company had reached out and said, you know what, we want you to speak about insurance. And you don't have to mention any product, just educate about insurance. So I was like, how much will I charge them? And I was playing around. I gave them an invoice for $1 million, and they did not question it. It was at that point I knew that
there was value.
I've got to take this seriously. And that was it. So I said, calling lawyers, please help me register this business. And I said, I think that particular client was my wake-up call that let's formalize it and let's do it properly. So, yeah.
So something was a hobby, and the inflection point when someone was ready to pay serious money for something that was a hobby, and you articulated that as value, serious value. Okay, that's super interesting. Gbubemi?
Okay. So like I said, I literally woke up one day, and when I mean literally, I was sleeping and I woke up one day and I realized you should do something for side hustlers. Now, before that, I'd always been interested in entrepreneurship. So as far back as I think 2011, 2012, I started doing some consulting work with the Enterprise Development Center. But before that, I'd been doing a series of events and sessions and trainings for entrepreneurs under what I called the spirit of enterprise at the time. Now, what I was doing with the spirit of enterprise at that time is what I'm currently doing with side hustlers, but then I wasn't quite sure what it was. So, like I said, I literally woke up one day and I realized that it was actually side hustlers that I were people I wanted to reach out to. And that was because, like I said earlier on, I realized that there was really no one addressing that interval between being in full-time employment and moving into a full-time business. Now, not everybody takes that side hustle route as an opportunity to start a full-time business. But I realized that many more people do take that route. And for some people, the challenge of how to manage the side hustle, how to decide even what to do as a side hustle, how to manage it with a full-time job, and then how to decide to transit into a full-time business if they choose to do so is a challenge. So we started, first of all, organizing. I started on Instagram actually for about 1 or 2 years, just posting stuff, motivational stuff, and things like that. And it occurred to me one day, there's really no point just posting stuff on Instagram. You might as well just get people together. And, building communities is something that sort of comes naturally to me. I just like getting people together. So we had a meetup May 2018 was our first meetup, and I literally just put it on Instagram and I was like, would anyone be interested in coming to meet up with other side hustlers? And, I got a bunch of positive responses. And the first meetup, I think we had about 20 to 25 people. So we just basically gathered and started talking about the different things that people have experienced, side hustles that people were into, the challenges that they faced, what they thought their needs were, where they needed support, that sort of thing. And it sort of grew from there. So from that time up until now, we've been having almost quarterly meetups. Nice. We have a small group where some of us are also in, where we also talk about side hustles, encourage one another, where people need help, the voice out, we've been having knowledge sharing sessions within our groups, within the group as well. Just basically an opportunity to upskill people. As of now, within that community, maybe only about 2 people have gone on to full-time entrepreneurship, but there's no pressure. Because like I always say, transiting to a full-time business is not compulsory. You can decide to do side hustle for the rest of your life if you choose to. But it would be nice if you transited into a full-time business.
So let's start. Let me ask. So that's super important. Well done for championing this cause. As the economy shows us, it's continues to do what it is doing, and I think so everyone is thinking about what is a side hustle that they can explore. But a follow-up question for you is, how does one choose, a particular side hustle that will suit them? How, what should you be thinking about, essentially,
Okay. In Nigeria, typically when people think about side hustles, it's the economic aspect. Most people are in side hustles because they need to make more money, largely because their salaries can't take them home or can't pay for some of the other excesses that they'd like to indulge in. So one very good point for people is that economic motivation, the fact that they need more money. So for those kind of people, really, the choice as to what to do as a side hustle is not necessarily as important as what they can get out of whatever it is that they do as a side hustle. So for example, that sort of person could be selling shoes today and tomorrow could be selling rice, and then the day after that could be selling pens, they'll typically chase the next opportunity. So yeah, I could say they're opportunity driven. Some other people are more interest driven, or should I say interest and passion sort of. So for example, like myself, I started my career in HR consulting. And after that, I moved into working in HR in an investment bank. So HR is something I've always loved, consulting, and before I started, my business full time, it was sort of like a side hustle. And I say sort of like a side hustle because at the time I didn't really know what a side hustle was. I just knew that sometimes, I could train for a company or, help provide some consulting advice for a company or sit with a friend at an interview and I'd get paid for it. So I didn't think of it as a side hustle because I didn't really understand what a side hustle was at that time. So for me, HR consulting was more an interest-based decision. For some other people leaning on that as well, there's also where your comfort zone is based on where your experience is or where your qualifications are. So say, for example, if you studied as an accountant and you're not working in accounting, for example, but you really love accounting, you could start an accounting side hustle because you're really passionate about it. On the flip side, there's the accountant as well who's working in accounting, but wants to do something else. So say, for example, she wants to bake cakes. That sort of person would be driven by her passion for baking cakes and could start a baking side hustle. So those are three basic reasons I think I've highlighted. Motivation, typically based on opportunity, interest and passion, and also based on education or qualification or career experience.
Great. So motivation, opportunity, interest and passion, and qualification or expertise. I'm taking notes as well. Tosin, for you, right? I imagine that you fall under the, would I say the interest and passion? And I know you have several passions. One was, I know you also have love to travel, and there are a couple of things. So how did you? First of all, is it fair to say that was your passion, or was that an expertise? But even regardless, I know that you have several expertise, you have several passions. How did you then center it on this topic, on this this area?
Yeah, I really love that question, Dolapo. And I want to say that maybe there might have just also been a time and chance here, right? Because I know that late 2017, that was when I started just talking about this. I think also was the attention, the fact that people were listening, because it's very easy for me to have said, oh, I focused on this thing. How about if nobody was listening? Would I have continued? Right. So maybe it was because also they were listening. So it's almost as though you're doing something and people are reacting like, oh, wait, let me give them more of that. So there's passion, there's expertise, and there's also time and chance. I think the market was also ready. Young people were also thinking about, oh, I want to live a better, I want to live my best life. How can I make it happen? How can I hammer in a legit way? So everything sort of aligned. So expertise, passion, and then opportunity. So all of them sort of aligned here.
Okay. And I know you love traveling as well. And why did you go and choose that as?
That's a good one, Dolapo. That's a good one. Now, a lot of people actually look at lifestyle creators and all of that. But guess what? Yeah. Number one, the market is saturated.
Yes.
Number two, it's a very tough one to actually hack, right? So there are lots of lifestyle producers out there, people traveling frequently. So I really, really love to travel. But let's say I can only afford 4 travels like a whole year. And like your proper travel content creator is like doing once every month. You understand? Where do I then get those content? So also you also have to look at the market, where you're playing and things like that. But yeah, actually I see what you're saying. But yeah.
Yeah. But as through your personal finance teachings and the community, I know that there's a bias to investing, but I'm very sure, a lot of people are interested in starting a business, for, as a way to increase wealth and increase income. What would you say are like the top 5 easy approaches, to, if and from top of your head, that would be an easy side hustle while owning a full-time job? I'll ask Gbubemi the question, but I wanted to start with you. Yeah.
Right. I really, really love this question. But before I proceed, I also want us to just put this out there. There are a lot of people that always think, entrepreneurship is the way, let's swap to this side of life. And I'm telling you now, based on numbers and based on data, in actual fact, a high-paying 9-to-5 job guarantees you financial independence more than entrepreneurship. And I'm not discouraging. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur and I have a lot of entrepreneur different, but based on the data, the numbers don't lie. So now let me answer the last question. Number one, the top 5 ways for us, number one, go into business. Number one, we are not going into business because we do not have options. Because whenever we are doing it because we don't have options, there's a very high tendency for it to be a survival mode. And there's only so much you can do in the survival mode. Now, people talk about how a lot of Nigerians are entrepreneurs, which is true, but many of them are in survival mode, that they're doing from hand to mouth, and we don't want to be there, right? So we're not doing it because we lack options. Options are excellent, so that if push comes to shove, if I wanted to move to a 9 to 5 tomorrow, I would have lots and lots of options. So we always want to create options for ourselves. That's number one. Number two, in terms of what kind of businesses can I start? Again, numbers don't lie. You have to look into the market. What is the demand? What is the supply? For instance, my sister loves to make crochet bags and all of that. But you also ask yourself, in a country like Nigeria, there's such a huge demand for crochet blankets. Are you making crop tops instead? Are you making bomb shirts instead because of our weather and things like that? So while passion is great, you also have to be ruthlessly honest. One thing about entrepreneurship is honesty. Numbers don't lie. What is the number telling us? Is there a market there? Yes. Is the market not there? No. We take the information and we move. So number one, options. Number two, is there a market are we actually providing for a market? Number three, you're also looking at things like, what is the ease of me? How quickly can I actually get this thing done? So for instance, if you're depending heavily on things that have to be imported, right? Are you able to plan your entire production in such a way that you are not at the mercy of if they close the ports? So you're also looking at alternatives. How dependent am I on external factors? As much as possible, we want to do it in such a way that we're not heavily dependent on things that are out of our control, right? That's also very important. Then number four as well is there are lots and lots of low-hanging fruits. I see a lot of people are a bit worried about going into a space that other people are already in. You're thinking about something magical. Like, I want to wake up this morning and I want to start talking about how to draw a star. Why are you thinking about how to draw a star? For instance, there's a huge demand about lots of businesses are online. They're thinking about how to give themselves nice designs and things like that. Always follow the numbers. So you don't have to reinvent or create something that is superb or something. You can even go and improve on what is already existing. So there are lots of businesses existing, but they have weaknesses. How can I just go and improve on that? So stop trying to create something out of the world. How can I improve what is existing? How can I help the process? How can I understand? So that's also fine. If I just be staring you in the face. And then the last but not the least is also denting. There was a time when in Africa I was the poster designer, content creator, going for meetings. There's a time when your business is now telling you that this is time to get extra hands. Many people, because of mindset, they don't do it, and then they miss the opportunity for growth. So you also again have to process. Is the time right for me to get better hands, for me to get funding, for me to get external help, and let this thing grow? Or am I just going to hold on to it because I want to own everything and things like that? So also that's also very important. So yeah, that's it.
That was super insightful. Thank you so much. I'm here taking notes. Moving over to you. I think Tosin has basically spoken around the inflection points and when it's time to take your business and formalize. But also, and she gave us, factors to consider, when it's, which kinds of side hustles one should explore. I mean, for you, what would you say is, in Nigeria at the moment, right? It might not be like, going to fashion, but what would you say the types of side hustles that you have seen that essentially works, and one should consider?
Okay, I will answer that and then backtrack slightly to what I think are the easiest side hustles to start as well. So the most common side hustles are things that tend to do with some sort of creative skill. So graphic design, website design, coding these days, all the way to shoemaking, fashion, baking cakes, making drinks. Yeah, those sorts of things really. I find, I don't know really, but I find that maybe it's either a lot of people are artistically inclined, so those things tend to come to them naturally, or some people see that there's some sort of need. Like Tosin said, you know, ordinarily you think there are 1 million and one fashion designers or tailors out there. Why would I even want to start something like that? But there's always a market for you in that kind of environment. You know, as what I think the easiest side hustles are, I think the easiest side hustles are those where you don't need to spend so much money, where you know, the demand is primarily based on your time, so you can also determine how you go about that side hustle. And those kind of side hustles are typically the kind of side hustles that can be enabled by technology. So you can use your laptop or your phone or a camera, for example. And these kind of things are typically service-based kind of businesses. So, for example, like consulting, when I even when I moved into my business full time, and I didn't really move into my business from being a side hustle. So remember, I was working in full-time employment, but when I left employment, I went to do a master's, and it was when I got back after my master's and I was trying to decide what it was I wanted to do that I sort of stumbled into, you know, making my side hustle full-time. So even from when my side hustle was a side hustle, and even from when I started, you know, my business full-time, the only thing I really needed to spend money on was a laptop, which I already had, and a phone. You know, all I needed to do was, if I needed to make calls to clients, I had my phone. If I needed to write proposals, write reports, do documents, it was largely based on my phone. So I didn't have to spend money. Even on office space, you know, I could sit down at home and do my work, or I could go to a client and do my work, or I could go to a cafe. You know, so you find out that where there's little pressure to spend above and beyond, you know, a reasonable amount of resources, people will generally gravitate towards those kind of things. And people will find those kind of things easier. So for example, someone who wants to start an accounting side hustle as well, all you simply need is either an accounting package, or if you want to get down to the most minimal, Excel. You know, you don't need to buy a car, because even if you have to go to the client's office, you can take a cab, you know. So anything that minimizes the amount of money that you need to spend upfront, I would say, is the easiest side hustle to get into. And those kind of things are typically service-based businesses. And then recognizing that a side hustle is something you do while you're still in employment, you know, it restricts the amount of time that you can spend doing things. So if, for example, my side hustle was in baking, I can't bake while I'm in the office. You know, I would have to wait until I go home to do my baking. You know, any other thing I could do really would be restricted to while I was at work. And that's not to say that, you know, while you're at work, you should be doing your side hustle at work, because that's not something that's quite ethical. You know, but it just shows to prove that, you know, you can't do so much if your side hustle involves you being physically there and exerting some sort of physical activity.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. You know, I was doing, well, as I was preparing, I think, you know, the most common side hustles, you know, side gigs that, you know, I came across where, and I think speaks to a lot of things that you both have talked about, is freelancing. And I'm not specific on the content or the sector, but just the archetypes. For example, it's freelancing, it's affiliate marketing, it's drop shipping, it's content marketing, and then digital product and sales. Does that resonate, Gbubemi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite a number of these few things, especially. So let me just add as well. You know, as you just remembered that there are even a number of websites, you know, like Fiverr, like Upwork, you know, where people can, with time, build skill, build experience, build exposure, you know, and build a side hustle, providing any number of services which those websites offer.
Good. Well, thank you very much. Okay. I think, you know, the next question for you both, and I'll go with Tosin, is essentially, how does one manage, you know, how did you, in the very beginning, how do you manage a 9-to-5 and a side hustle? What did you do differently? How did you block out your time, etc.? Yeah.
I love that question. In that case, I had to be very very proactive and very deliberate. So then Money Africa wasn't called Money Africa because I couldn't be doing content every day, right? I'm sure other people can, but then I couldn't. It was then called Money Mondays. So I knew that I had to create content, videos for Monday. So if we were to go back on Instagram and check, the previous name was called Money Monday. So I would prepare the entire weekend for solid Monday content, and then I could post all that days over the week. But my Monday content was a power punch. So I prepared for it over the weekend and I post. So you have to be very deliberate. So if you have a full-time job, or like of those that are doing it full-time, right? If you have a full-time job, or like of your counterparts that are doing theirs full-time, you might not be able to post full-time today. That's fine. But your market, they already know that every Monday, Tosin is going to give us a powerful summary of what happened in the past week. Yours could be thrice a week. So it could be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And the truth is, once people start following, they already know. There are other accounts that I follow and I love them so much. And I know, for instance, there's a particular newsletter I love. I know that every Friday, I'm going to get a fantastic case study. It's a Friday thing. So they start listening to you until they listen to your reading. The beautiful thing about being that business owner is that you can teach them who you are or what you choose to deliver. So be very proactive, work with your own tune, right, and find what works for you. So there's no one way.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. I'm hearing a lot of consistency. I'm just hearing just like let people know you for something, and like they can rely on you, on you for something. Gbubemi, to follow up on that, right? It's I think that how would you advise people to not see their side hustle as a small side project? Especially if there's a clear path to say, how do I want this could be something big. How do you, Gbubemi and then Tosin can add, how do you advise people to not see their side hustle? And, I know there are lots of people messaging me, but if you have questions, I think we'll be talking for another 6-7 minutes, and then we would like to take some questions. And so please just start sending in the questions. And so once we're done, we take the questions. Gbubemi, over to you.
Okay, let me sort of share an experience. When I started my business sort of fully, or shortly before I started my business, because I worked freelance with it before I registered my business and all of that. After I got back into the country from doing a master's and trying to decide whether I wanted to start a business or get a full-time job, I got a call from one of my former colleagues who said, oh, my friends and I, we started this business and we need to put in HR structures, blah, blah, blah. Are you available? Can you help? I thought to myself, well, yeah, it's not like I'm doing anything right now, and it would help me sort of decide on what to do. Now, that former colleague had teamed up with about, at the time, maybe almost about 8 active members and a lot of other inactive members. And they had started this business in finance about 5 years before that time, where they had pulled together money and they started this credit business. Now, that was in 2015. Now that company has grown into providing real estate services, has a microfinance bank, has an investment bank, has an asset management bank, and a number of other services that some of us might have heard of. This is called the VFC Group. And when I think about it, for me, that's sort of like the poster child of moving from a side hustle to a full-time. Because at the time, when I took on the HR consultant role with the firm, all of the major promoters were in their day-to-day jobs. They had their full-time jobs, and this business was their side hustle. So I was the one who came in and helped them put the structure in place before they ultimately transited into the business when my consulting engagement was done. So sometimes when people think about their side hustle, they see it as just a little thing that I'm doing now. But the reality is that if you want to get it to where you want it to be, if you want to grow, if you want to get bigger, that's a lot more intention and a lot more planning around it. You need to be able to think in terms of milestones. Say, for example, if I really, really, believe that, my side hustle as a baker, for example, can make me a nationally acclaimed baker, when do I see myself achieving that? Before that, what are the things I need to do to get me to that point? Understanding that today I'm the only one sitting in my kitchen baking my cake. Do I need to get people to support me? What kind of people do I need to get? How do I need to pay them? At what point should I be able to afford to pay them? There's a whole range of activities and steps that one would need to go through before you ultimately get to that point. So the most important thing is, first of all, deciding in your mind, that side project can be something bigger, and then actively planning purposefully towards it. And that simply means that today, if I'm baking one or two, I have a target in my mind that at the end of 6 months, I want to be baking 10 cakes. And I can only bake 10 cakes if I can hire maybe another person to work with me, and that person would work with me full time. So you gradually graduate your milestone, to what you see as your ultimate big point, which in reality may not be your ultimate big point, would just be your starting point. But to help you get to that point where you can make a decision to leave your employment and convert your side hustle into a full-time business.
That is super helpful. That is super. Tosin, do you have anything to add in terms of that? How do you basically? And I think that I'm picking up on different things, right? I think the first one I'm picking up on, there are people who basically do things as a hobby, and I think that's Tosin's, and then do things as a hobby. There was an inflection point, and then it got serious. People who, however, set out to eventually start a real business, and started taking it seriously from the get-go. But Tosin, from your end, just based on those two scenarios, how do you make sure? And I think you've mentioned it, some of it earlier, but how do you make sure, if this is something that I'm trying to get big, I don't always treat it like a small side project? What are the things that you can easily do, while still in full-time employment? Just make this stay serious, etc.
One of the biggest steps, and it might sound so little, is just basically even separating yourself from the business. Something as little as opening an account for the business itself. If I wanted to buy something off Instagram, somebody sent me Oluwa, Kayode, Michi, as opposed to go to something. I'll take the person with the go-to more seriously. I can tell that this person is destined, is aiming for something bigger, right? Something as simple as that. Something as simple as keeping an Excel sheet, just basically monitoring your going and your income. A lot of side hustles are actually loss-making side hustles, but people are doing. Number one, it's nice to say, oh, I work at XYZ company and I'm also an entrepreneur. I do this after work hours, right? They love the title, they love the glory and all of that, but the company could actually be running at a loss because they are not monitoring the numbers. So if you know you're really at that business and you want to start treating it as something big, the next big thing to start looking at is the numbers. What is the numbers telling me? How much is coming as revenue? How much is coming as a profit? And if I'm currently posting a loss, is this a temporary loss? Will my volume change the game? If it's worth your while, there's something that says whatever that is worth doing is worth doing. So the minute you told yourself that, I want to do this thing properly, start doing it properly. And again, saying that a lot of people are looking for something over the top. Remember Amazon? It was like a library. It was a library, it was a bookstore. And then what? Started layering products, and they became really big. The mindset was always right? If you look at the top billionaires, these are clothes, right? And you just started doing it properly and they put in structure. So always start thinking. The minute you said, I want to take this thing seriously, start thinking big and start putting in structure.
Thank you very much. We have a question here. Someone said, how do I tackle finance, bookkeeping, tracking sales expenses, tax when starting a side hustle for someone with no business background, funds to hire an accountant? By the way,
okay, great.
Somi, you should actually use traction apps. You should use traction apps. So, but let us say, continue.
No, go ahead.
Now only your own general perspective, and I'll come back and answer it a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. For a lot of entrepreneurs, like especially small businesses, sometimes they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how to get the hang of it." And I think it's a blessing in disguise, if you ask me, because the truth is, the numbers is like the blood of that business, right? And many the time people run away from that. Oh, I want to focus on my strength, and I'm also guilty. So we're now going into another space that is also not my strength, and it's very easy for me to say, "Oh, I want to just focus on my strength." So a lot of entrepreneurs say, "Oh, I just know how to sow fruit. I don't want to worry about it now. Let somebody else worry about it." But you cannot completely outsource it, right? So even if you would get help from here and there, you need to know what is my revenue? How does it work? There's three main buckets. When you're thinking about your income statement, there's something coming in, there's something going out, and there's something that's left over. You need to be able to understand it at the very minimum, right? So even if you're getting external help from things like apps, from things like software, at the very minimum, you need to be able to understand it. That will help you with your decision making. So for something as little as, let's say you're in an inventory business where you're actually selling, a particular product sits on your hand for like 6 months. It's a waste of money. Your time, money down, right? But if you don't have that data, you don't have that information, you wouldn't know. So you must start favoring things that actually move faster and have better margins. So you cannot completely outsource it. You need to be able to put your heads down and just try to understand how exactly does this thing work. And trust me, it's actually very easy. It's not as hard as a lot of people think it is. Yeah. So please feel free to talk about tractions.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one more question and maybe and get final words. And what I want to do is actually show a video of traction, and one of I will take it from there. Gbubemi, someone is saying that I have a question in my inbox. How do I is it legal to start a side hustle while in employment? How do I address it with my employers?
Okay, it's it's more of an ethical issue than a legal issue, except where, for example, your employer, automatically stipulates in your contract of employment that you cannot, engage in any other business except working, while working for the company. I had one of my HR clients as well when I was helping them review their employment letters, their contract of employment. And I noticed that their statement said that employees cannot engage in any business in conflict with the business of the company. So what that automatically means is that they don't mind employees having side hustles, but those businesses must not conflict with the business of the company. However, even if the company, welcomes an employee having a side hustle, the employee should realize that you cannot be working on your side hustle during your employer's time, because then you'd be cheating your employer. You have to leave all any activity involved with your side hustle to off work time or during your break time if you can get time to go off work. Now, for companies that don't allow the employees to have a side hustle, that means that you know that strictly you can't mention having a side hustle. Not because there's anything wrong in it, because of course you can do it at your own time, but you don't want to also suffer victimization, because that's the real thing. You need to be careful that you don't market your side hustle at work, or else you may be what's that word now? Misperceived, at work. But by and large, I find out that the number of employers do welcome the employees having side hustles, especially now that you find that a lot of people who are below 30, below 35, there's that drive to want to achieve something beyond themselves. So even with their day jobs, they're looking for other ways to express themselves. So even if they're not doing a side hustle because they want to transition into a full-time business, they're doing it out of passion and they know that they want to make money off it for whatever reason it is. And employers are beginning to realize that this is something that they need to be able to accommodate, whilst at work. So the emphasis is that you can't or you should not do your side hustle while you're at work, whether your employer is in support of it or not, because you'll be distracted. And also, you must not even engage in the same business that your employer does, because then there's a conflict of interest and there's already, a major issue at hand.
I want to add to that. Some companies actually toss they ask you to disclose. So my previous employer will tell you, if you're doing anything, just disclose it. So for the purpose of disclosure, we send it to the headquarters in London, and then everybody just discloses, what you're doing as a side hustle. Another thing as well is we've spoken about companies' time and all of that, just being objective about it. Now, stay with me. Do you know that Google actually encourages their people to actually have side hustle? There was a particular person that works at Google. She was working on a fitness product that Google then also invested in while she was working at Google. Now, let's bring it back home so that it's not like, oh, this thing is happening just in Yankee and things like that. There's a friend of mine, she runs Aspire Fit Farm, it's a fitness company, and she works at Stanbic. And Stanbic was having something for small business entrepreneurs, and they brought her on Shari to be able to speak to small business entrepreneur in her capacity as a small business owner, even though she's a full-time employee with them. So the times are changing. People also know that you have to take that as a critical skill. You don't want to lose the person because they invent something on the side, right? So just be honest, put your cards on the table, and then, lots of transparency and honesty. The times are changing.
No, so I agree with you. As an entrepreneur, we have attraction. We're about 35 people, and I think what we also, we there's a non-compete, so it's a case of you can't do, whatever you're doing outside of work, shouldn't be competing with a business, because there's, we're circulating and sharing strategy. But I agree, if, that everyone should grow, right? And a company cannot determine the different paths, the way that you should grow in your career or your interests. And the best companies I know of encourage that. And I think it's always helpful. A lot of times you notice that even your colleagues are the guys who will be your first customers. But I think companies where they really understand that there's a clear input and output situation on your given work, are much more comfortable. But I would always encourage people to always disclose it, right? So back to the first question, back to the question around me talking about Traction, rather, around how to manage your business. What we do at Traction is essentially building tools for SMEs to run their business. And we do that from, how do you manage your inventory? How do you manage your sales and track your sales? So even if you have someone who is managing it for you while you're doing something else, you can at least remotely see all that is going on, all your payments that are happening, be it via POS or bank transfer, USSD, and even QR code, right? You can basically see the customers who have been successful or who are making sales. You can see how much inventory you have, when do you need to replenish. And so, it's very easy. The first step isn't to get an accountant, right? It's then when things, when you now need to do your reconciliation and it's out of something that you can do, that you should get an accountant, etc. The first step is just get a good solution like Traction that can enable you to grow and manage your business and get like instant insights. The one thing that I actually wanted to talk about, and one of the reasons that we are here is because of one of the reasons that we're also doing this is like what Traction is also doing is helping folks who want a side hustle and giving opportunities for that. And we are launching our affiliate marketing soon. You can already register and sign up. What that enables is that, as one of the things that we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the conversation was there are about few ways of that you can few kinds of side hustles, right? There's freelancing, there is creating content, but one of the big ones that we are seeing grow more and more in Nigeria is affiliate marketing, right? And that's something that we at Traction are trying to do At Traction, for example, we you know, if people want to get, you know, be a POS terminal, or or want to get you know, a bank transfer solution, or want to get the software. Everyone that with a referral is a referral, and you can use your community. You can use the contact and the neighborhood store that you know, and you can essentially get up to like 6,500 for every successful referral that that you bring in. So, Tosin and Gbubemi, just give me about 5 minutes. Let me just share a video on this, and then we'll wrap up. On the chat group, we have put in the link that you can sign up. Let me just also open it to walk people through. Just hold on. So essentially, it's like, how do you earn money with Traction, right? And how do you expand your, even if you are doing something in line that touches the SMEs, is another way of expanding, the services that you offer them. And it's easy. It's, you could be a student, you could be a freelancer, just anyone and you can essentially recommend and refer people to Traction. And on our platform that we've built, you can, you earn a payment for every referral. You earn a transaction bonus when your referrals use Traction apps. And then on the platform, you essentially can track, when people are already starting, and obviously when the payouts to you happen. Sheyi, can you please share the the video on Traction apps first of all, and then we go on to the affiliates. Or actually, let's start with the affiliates video. Yeah. So we can also explore the pages partners.tractionapps.co. Just hold on there, friends. So let me just first play the Traction apps. Yeah. So that is it. That is Traction apps. So thank you guys. If you're interested, then you can. If you're interested, you can go on partners.tractionapps.co, and we will be happy to bring you into the Traction family as an affiliate. Tosin and Gbubemi, thank you for giving me that time out. But famous last words. As we wrap up, what are the top 3 things that you like, to reiterate in starting, in discovering, starting, and managing a side hustle for growth? Yeah.
Okay, the first thing for me would be discipline. Discipline, I think, is one of the most important things because a full-time job might as well, would most likely be quite demanding. And then you add a side hustle to that. So you need to be disciplined to be able to manage both. That also implies that you'd have to give a lot of sacrifices to make sure that your full-time job does not suffer and then your side hustle doesn't suffer. When you weigh both of them, I always say that your full-time job is more important because you signed an external contract for that. So as much as possible, you make sure that your full-time job doesn't suffer. And if you need to get the resources to help you in your side hustle, then you might as well get that to make sure that you end up doing that. The second thing is to consider that your side hustle is actually a potential business. So there's a tendency to see it as, oh, that thing that makes me maybe 10,000 every month or 100,000 or maybe even 1 million every month, and not think about the fact that you could actually grow it into something bigger. So don't just think of it as something that you do when you have time or when someone calls you. Think of it as something that can potentially create employment for other people, potentially solve larger problems than whatever it is that you're addressing now. And the third thing is to find the community of people that can support you, not just the community, but people who can encourage you along the journey. Because like I said at first, there's the challenge that you're going to be facing with your full-time juggling your full-time job and the side hustle. Sometimes it might get discouraging, but you need people who can cheer you on, motivate you. People can tell you the real truth if it comes to that, and that's it for me.
Thank you. Tosin, over to you. Okay, I think we lost Tosin. But thank you guys. Yeah, I guess we lost Tosin. Thank you guys for joining. I'm with me a sincere, great. I'm grateful for you joining us. It's good that we always find opportunities to work together. Thank you, everyone. Please follow us on Traction, SME Traction, on our Instagram for more updates on our webinars. We can also go on the partners at tractionapps.co. It's in the chat box if interested to be an affiliate, and we can also answer any questions. And also, if you're starting a side hustle, download Traction Apps on Google Play Store, and we'll be ready to work with you. Again, thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. God bless. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.